Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of True Crime with the Sarge. This is the Super Bowl alternative show with this retired NYPD detective and a friend of mine, Mike Alcazar. Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. How you feeling?
Good, good. It's been a couple of days since we've seen each other personally, but on the show it's been a while. So good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
So tomorrow, Monday, February 9th, 5 p.m. Mountain Time is the lack of a better term deadline for the family to come and put up the money for the ransom for Nancy Guthrie. I mean, Mike, I don't know what this family is going through, right? I mean, Savannah and everybody else. I mean, it's just absolutely awful. I can't imagine what how this is. I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was in this position.
Yeah, it's horrific. They must feel so helpless. They're putting on a strong front, but making those videos because somebody's demanding some kind of contact. It's got to be just really terrible.
Just think of like the torture, so to speak, of it, right? I mean, you're going through this thing. Your mother's missing. Oh,
Yeah,
and we're gonna get into the whole victimology in a little bit, but this is your mom, right? I mean, this is like
I
you
I
pull out
can
all the
only
stops.
I can't even imagine the stress level. They probably haven't been sleeping, not eating. This worried, sick about their poor mother.
Yeah, and you know what, Mike? This has been one of the most baffling cases that I've ever covered or looked into. I've never had a case like this. I never had a ransom case. I had a kidnapping case, but I never had a ransom case happen in our past lives.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, kidnapping, yes. Ransom, no, because technically, you always thought that ransom was kind of like the 1950s and 60s and 70s. I mean, the past time. But here we are in a new age.
Yeah, crazy.
So the FBI is offering $50,000 for reward money. That's the hotline number 1-800-225-5324. If anybody has any information on this case, that's the phone number you're going to use. So, Mike, I'm going to jump right into this. You know what? Let's start up with the victimology. I question this, Mike. You have an 84-year-old woman who has mobility problems. She has health problems. She's on lots of different medications, I'm sure. We know of at least the blood thinners. I mean, if you're a kidnapper taking on this kind of risk, I mean, this is like a huge risk as far as I'm concerned that something really bad can happen to her.
Yeah, yeah. I've been thinking about that. Like, they asked me, I think today on the news. Actually, no, Anjanette asked me that yesterday, and I couldn't really decide if this was actually targeted or, as we know, a lot of crime happens when it just goes bad and they decide to do something about it. Yeah, not if there was an ideal person to kidnap, you wouldn't want to take somebody that's 84, bad health, can't move, can't transport that easily. So, not well planned out, I thought.
No, and that's what kind of like I think many people on the internet specifically. I don't know if they picked up on that on in general, or it's just one of those like kind of red flags of saying like, be honest with you, Mike, if I was going to plan a kidnapping, I wouldn't be picking this person. I would have picked, if I was targeting her family, I would have picked a much better choice as far as I was concerned. And I'm not trying to be dismissive here, so don't get me wrong, folks. But this wouldn't be my target.
Or maybe they just figured, they're gonna get less fight. They're bullies, right? They're picking on somebody weak that can't run away, right? So for them, it was probably an easy target. Perhaps they didn't know about her health condition. We all know that criminals aren't very smart. We rely on that heavily. Hopefully, these guys are making mistakes. Making all these messages. So hopefully, the investigators are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the background that we have no idea what we're doing. That what
Yep.
they're doing.
And I want to bring that point up. I just want to give a shout out here to Lord of the Drums. Thank you very much for the super. Thanks for being here, Sarge. So glad you're feeling better. Thank you. And Anita, thank you very much for that super. Welcome back, Joe. I've been praying
Yeah.
for your speeding recovery. I appreciate that so much, Anita. So let's. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because it's on my list of things. to talk about. And I say this a lot on Twitter, and I say it just because the police say we have no leads, we have no suspects, uh, doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, they could be quietly working it, trying to avoid. They're probably not even watching the news, watching all the criticism. It's just a distraction. These guys are just trying to get the job done. And again, they're keeping the information, quiet as they're processing the case.
Right. I mean, you got the Pima County Sheriff's Office, you got the FBI working this thing. They're kind of doing this hit and run thing, right? They show up, they do their thing, and then they run out and they go somewhere else because there's this small road, small area, and the media has descended upon this place, and and the new media as well, right? The social media people and everything else that goes along with it. So it must make their jobs more difficult in that respect. Moving on, but I have a question, Mike. There's one of the problems that I've had from the beginning of this case is why on earth didn't they hold the crime scene right from the start? I mean, you had this woman who lives alone. Nobody else has access to the place. Nobody else needs access to the place. Mike, I would have been like, we're sitting here until the duration.
Yeah, I have a couple of theories on that. Maybe because it is an affluent community, right? $1 million homes. Maybe the Pima sheriff got pressure from the community, um, and maybe they said, "Can you close it down? Do you have enough information?" Or maybe you know they didn't have the help of the FBI yet. They prematurely closed it. Then the FBI showed up and says, "No, we got to reopen it. We got to do this and do that." There's a couple of things that could have happened.
Yeah, like I said, I think 'cause now listen. As soon as they let it go, everybody descended on the place like ants, right? You have all the media things. You had, I think it was Brian Enton from News Nation, on taking the video and the pictures of the blood droplets that was still left behind and stuff like that. And then they came back to do a search, on the outside of the perimeter, and everybody's kind of trampled everything. And I think it's bad luck as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, how many times did they go back? How many times did they reopen up that crime scene? I count three times. I don't know if it's more than that, but
I think the fourth was today. They came back and they were searching either their water
I saw that.
retention places, yeah,
Yeah,
or cesspools, right? Which,
yeah.
if they really thought that there was a body in there, they'd have to drain it. You wouldn't find it otherwise. Just by you know spinning the soup, so to speak.
They could use like that radar, right? Like they did in the Rex Yerman case, right?
Yeah.
To see if there's anything down there.
If this happened, let's just say this happened in New York when we was working back in the day, Mike. One of the things I thought they would be breaking this up into like this whole area into like quadrants, and searching within those backyards and and remember this is a pretty big area. It's pretty vast because at nighttime you hear the coyotes when people are recording. You hear these coyotes, so you got to if somebody is out there, that's a real problem for you in regards to that. But I don't like the way this is headed, so to speak. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, I was talking about it today in one of my interviews, and I was talking about what we do in NYPD. We start at the residence where they live. We search that if they live like now, most of our missing live in apartment buildings. We're going to search that whole apartment building complex up
From
and
top to
down,
bottom. Yep.
knock on doors, right? So in this case, absolutely, you search the whole house. I said I would definitely search the family members' homes. There's no reason why they should say no, right? I mean, we get consent. I would search the sister's home, the brother's home. Why not? That's where she goes, right? Maybe she went there by accident. Who knows? That's what I would do. Just eliminate that automatically.
Yeah, and well, in the respect of yes, top to bottom, the house, whatever. Unfortunately, we see them coming back. They're on the roof. There's a picture of a camera that I don't know if it was there originally, or whatever, but it looks like it was there, and they missed it the first two times.
I think that was a tip, right? A tip from a neighbor that
Yeah,
told them about it. So
yeah. So, this is why you do this kind of stuff. But honestly, well, let's take a look at the timeline, right? So they allegedly she gets dropped off at she takes an Uber first of all to her daughter's house at 5:32. At 9:48, her garage door opens. At 9:50, her garage door closes. Now, at 9, excuse me, at 1:47 hours, the camera is disconnected. At 2:12 in the morning, there's motion detected, which this is I'm still trying to figure out if they took the camera that has the motion detecting. At 2:28, the pacemaker disconnects from her phone. Now, I searched this, Mike. You have to be within 5 or 10 feet of the app and the pacemaker before it disconnects. That's general. It could be more, but that's generally what we're dealing with at that point. So she is
Mm.
definitely not anywhere near this at this point
Yeah.
at 2:28.
Yeah. Makes me wonder, were the perpetrators in the house as soon as she walked in? Or was she asleep and then they broke in? Uh, which
It
I would
doesn't.
think if they,
Yeah.
I would imagine they got in through the back way, right?
Or they kind of said that there was no sign of forced entry,
Wait,
anything.
did
So
he say that? I thought he said, I did he say that? I'm so confused with that sheriff. I'm not sure if he said there was or there wasn't. I don't know if he
yeah,
confirmed it. Did he say there's
yeah.
no forced entry at all?
He kind of was evasive, but he didn't say that there was, and they didn't say that there wasn't. But they
Yeah.
showed the picture of the front door. It looked fine. They had the pictures in the back. Everything looked over there. Yes, there was some broken lights and stuff, which I find like unacceptable in regards to the door cam. Right, so she's not paying for her service to have this video camera done. It's been going on for a month. She's got no service, and I don't think that, you know, like, how do you let your mom live like this in that respect? You want her to feel safe. You want to do all this stuff. Is it just one of those, oh, forget it, nothing's ever happens here kind of thing?
That could have been the case. She could have had her doors unlocked. It looks like a really nice neighborhood from what I've heard. So,
Yeah.
it's not New York City where you're locking everything up.
Weeby, thank you very much for that. Super glad I'm feeling better too. Then hello, Mike. Um,
Webby,
Webby, yes. Tierra Rain. Thank you for joining the membership. Thank you very much. There are Mike, almost 600 people watching this live, so I guess a lot of people aren't Super Bowl fans, which is kind of cool because I figured, who knows, right? So let's go back to this timeline. So 11:50, 11 o'clock, the church calls. 11:56, the family shows up. 12:03, 911 calls. 12:15, the police arrive. So it was actually pretty fast when that finally happens. But we're looking at from 2 o'clock in the morning where the pacemaker is disconnected, which we kind of figured that's when the event happens, right? Or it already happened and they just removed it, knowing. There's a lot of things in here, Mike, that tell me these people knew about certain things. They knew about her pacemaker. They knew about her phone or a watch that gets connected to it. They know that the camera is not working, but they remove it anyway. I don't know if that tells us anything about the perpetrators, but it's interesting. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, I think everyone has the suspicions, right? So,
Yeah,
and you got to entertain that. So,
yeah, no, I mean, at this point, Black White, are a member for 19 months. Thank you very much, Black Whiter. There is certain things that, as an investigator, right, Mike, you could tell everybody here.
I
There
think
are
that's
certain
Black
things.
Widower.
No, it's Black Whiter, Widor.
Somebody put that in the chat. Who's right, Mike or Joe?
Well, widow would be Widow, right?
I know, it's a play. It's like a vanity plate.
Okay.
I'm busting his chops. He's feeling better. I'm going to harass him.
He's going to harass me. Yes. Going to throw me off my game over here. Could you imagine, Mike, having to investigate a case today under situations like we're dealing with the social media and the media the way it is today?
Insane. Definitely makes it, again, that's the job again of like the sheriff to keep the investigators away from all the distraction. So yeah, it's very difficult to work around all that. And someone said you were correct, Joe. You're correct.
Oh, okay. Missy Mayhem, who's actually behind the scenes helping
Wider than
produce
most.
this show tonight. Thank you very much. 20 months. It's bizarre, Mike. I couldn't imagine having to deal with the pressure of the day in and day out of bombardment from social media, from people asking questions. And could you imagine the tip lines, what they're getting?
Yeah,
Can you imagine?
for sure.
And they got to answer all this stuff out.
Thank God they have the FBI and whoever else is helping them, because they have to have some kind of a task force, right? Hopefully, that's combing through all that information, and I'm sure they're
And
getting a lot.
I hope they're recording all this stuff because they're gonna have to answer all this stuff out in regards to this. And it's just it's got to be overwhelming, the whole amount of information, because listen, they're going to rely, the police always rely on the public for help. I mean, that's the way it goes, but in a situation like this now, where everything is magnified by 100, it must be difficult to have to deal with this. So much difficult, Mike, that at 4:30 p.m. today at Eastern time on our end, which is like I think 2:30 their end, the Pima County Sheriff put out a memo or notice that said there's going to be a continued police presence now at the home of Nancy Guthrie, and that basically stay off the properties, no trespassing. I mean, this is how crazy it's gotten.
That should have been the case all along. Oh my God. You mean they didn't secure that after they
No,
closed it? Of course they didn't, right? Because all the outlets, the news outlets are there. Who else walked there besides, media, fans? I don't know. It's just insane that they didn't secure that scene.
that's what I'm saying. 7 days after the fact, they do this. They put that. That's why I said, Mike, if I was the sergeant that pulls up on there, guys, this is it. This is home. We're gonna have a 24-hour coverage. We're gonna have, of course, reliefs and stuff, but we're not giving back the crime scene. There's zero reason to give back the crime scene. There's no, there's no, there's no reason to.
And I
Sweet
think
Lorraine, did the neighbor report the suspicious person they saw earlier in the weeks leading to the kidnapping? I saw a video in regards to that. Yes, there was a neighbor. There was actually a couple of days later. It wasn't. It came out a couple of days later. I don't know if they told them right away, but
yeah,
there was a about some
like a
suspicious,
lurker. I heard
yeah,
about
a
a lurker.
lurker. And there's also this white van that is coming out now, that they said there was a white van that was seen. They don't know if it was somebody working at the thing. Nobody seems to know exactly what's going on in that respect. But it's interesting, of course. And listen, the police are going to follow every one of the leads. I mean, right now, everything that the police are doing is they basically have two investigations going on, right, Mike? One for the ransom part of it, and two, any other ancillary kind of connections to this case, right? We know most people are victimized by someone we know, and we know that's where we always look first. So that's always it's always a viable theory for the police to do it, right? Explain, Mike, when the detectives get together and this something happens, there's a homicide or something like this. Explain what transpires between the group of detectives that show up at the scene.
Well, when I was in the detective squad, right, we would do our canvassing. Initially, with the canvassing, we probably don't even do interviews other than the initial complaint with the complainant, and then my lieutenant would get us all in his office. He'd have a whiteboard. He's old school, and we just start bouncing off theories. He start writing down the names of the victim, the victimology, the history, any potential suspect, any prior complaints. It's just a list. It's something tangible that you just can look at. So when you're done with that meeting, you're done bouncing off theories, you go back out to your desk, you go back out to the field, and then you can go right back to that board and refresh your memory of what you're looking at. And then the lieutenant would probably like divvy up like the task, like what you're gonna do. So I don't know if they show that on TV. I don't know if anybody in TV does that. They should, because
I
that's
don't think
the
so.
reality of it, right? Right? Did you do that in cold
I had a
case?
flip chart. I had a flip
There you
chart.
go.
Yeah,
Right. Perfect.
I had a
Right.
flip
Joe
chart because
Resnick was a big fan of the flip chart.
yep, and so was I. I like to write things down, but the flip chart was good because even in a situation like this, they made an announcement today that they had multiple locations, right? So we know we have Nancy's house. We know we have Annie's house, who's the daughter, right? They've been there now a couple times. They were doing searches and photographs. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then I don't know where else, right? There's a third place or a fourth place. I don't know, because he didn't say two locations. He said multiple locations.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You as the detective and supervisor got to know where your people are, right? Because we don't want to cross contaminate scenes. We don't want to send people to the Guthrie Nancy's house, and then send the same detectives to Annie's house, because now you get yourself a problem, like cross contaminating scenes,
Yeah. Or duplicating work.
right? And it just becomes onerous to try to keep track of everybody. If you have, this is your group, this group does this, and nobody else in that respect. And I
Yeah.
think that we don't know. That could be a no mobile command center. Nothing. I guess I don't know if Mike, either we're old school or we're just kind of stuck in the past in certain things, but this is, to me, this is ripe for a mobile command center.
Maybe they
Keep an
don't
eye on
have a
things.
mobile command center. I don't know how big the Pima County Sheriff's Office is. Um, yeah, you're right. You're right. There'd absolutely be what do we call it? Real time crime van on the scene where we can do our computer checks, where the captains can sit there and wait for the information to give them. I remember manning one of those things. Every captain, once you get some information, or once some captain gets some information, every captain on the scene wants me to print that out because everybody wants to hold something in their hand to look like they're busy. So
Well, and not just that, but that's how the flow of intelligence goes. This is how you avoid problems. So when you're standing at the podium, you're not saying stuff that turns out not to be true. I mean,
yeah,
that's what I'm leaning towards is like, I've seen this over and over again where they do these pressers and it's just awful, right? I don't want these chiefs, or in this case, the sheriff, the head sheriff, doing these press conferences. I don't want them doing it. I want them at the scene in the initial stages, have the PIO come out, because how many times does this thing change, Mike, and it looks so bad when you're trying to walk things back?
yeah. Yeah, this poor sheriff, maybe it's his first time at the podium. You remember in the Ray Kelly days, who spoke to the press? Ray Kelly.
Nobody,
That was it. Nobody
nobody.
else. No captain, no chiefs, no detectives. And you know what? That's probably good practice.
Yeah, I used to call it the Iron Curtain, right? Nobody spoke. Nobody
Nobody.
spoke. He
You
ran
couldn't
that
talk to
place
the
like
press as a cop. I
no.
remember being in a scene. The reporters come up to you. We do not talk to them. You just can't give them any information, and exactly for this reason.
Yes, and when you think about it, there was a lot less problems back then about the flow of information and bad information, or not bad information, but wrong information that
Wrong
turns out,
information.
yeah, that turns out to be fixed because of the ongoing investigation. These things are so dynamic as they're going on. I mean, think about this, Mike. We have a kidnapping angle. We have another angle that they're looking into. I'm sure, but it's like you're running with crypto scams. You have a guy, right? They lock up one guy for a crypto scam already. I mean, you have it's craziness.
Yeah, if they're not dividing the task, and if they don't have good supervisors, that's like doling out the assignments, it could get really confusing. Like I don't know if everyone knows this. I think Straight Out of Queens knows this. I just saw him comment. But when you catch a homicide, right? You're the catching detective. I want to explain this. You're the detective catching that homicide. It's your case. Everybody else is assisting you, right? So we have the homicide unit, right? That would help you. They'd go out, interviews, canvas, but all the paperwork goes back to the one detective that's going to collate and put together this case for testimony. And I think that makes it a little bit simpler, right? Instead of everybody doing this and doing that, and so many people, putting it together, it's just confusing. So it's a
I agree.
good system.
Yeah, it was a good system, and I agree with you 100%. Less chance of things getting lost, less chance of a tip falling through the cracks,
Yeah.
and all the other things that go on. Okay, Robin's got a great question. It says, is it local law enforcement or FBI dropping the ball? Well, everything is in the beginning. Robin is falls on the local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, right? Uh, Responding to the scene, maintaining the scene, holding, making sure that nobody is walking all over there. The FBI gets called in hours or even a day later. It's listen, it's local law enforcement has to do the basic things first. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, like preserving the scene, right? Keeping that scene secure, making sure you got all the DNA evidence, all evidence that's to be collected, and they release it way too early. Obviously, now we see that.
Yeah, so the questions are coming in. If you guys have a
Yeah,
question, just make sure you put either QQQ in, or the red exclamation, or the red question mark or mark, so I can see him. I got Missy is helping me out. I want to thank the mods for helping out. Mike, we just broke over 1,000 live viewers tonight on our Super Bowl alternative show.
thank
So
you,
welcome
thank you,
everybody.
bro.
For those that might be new, thank you for showing up. And it's good to see everybody here. So here's the question from Michelle. Could this be a both planned kidnapping and some other criminal asking for ransom to capitalize? Yeah, we've already seen one, right? They already arrested one scammer trying to capitalize on the the fact that they had this alleged kidnapping going on, and he got arrested pretty quickly. So I don't know exactly what he did to to deserve that quick response. I don't know. He really must have said something or did something stupid.
Yeah, but you got all these other agencies on board now. What a dummy. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? You don't think you're going to get caught? Oh my God.
As soon as you hear those three magic letters, FBI, don't
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah.
Don't try it.
Yep.
It's just something like, Lulu loves Lulu. Thank you very much for that super sticker. I really appreciate that.
I
Yeah,
love
missed
Radiohead.
I missed that. Yeah, Radiohead. Now, question from Walden. What about the Circle K? Yeah, the Circle K is pretty interesting, Mike. There's two Circle Ks within, close proximity, so to speak. There was one that was closer that they could have gone to, but this one that they went to, the law enforcement agency went to pull video, was a little further away from everybody else, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, it's like if you live in the area, you want a cup of coffee or you do something, you go to the closest one. Why drive an extra few miles to another? I guess maybe they have better coffee. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. Maybe a little insight that the person is unaware of the one that's closer or nearby.
Yeah. I mean, there's been theories that they live locally. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're hired by somebody that lives locally. We don't know what's going on here, right?
And there's another question here. That being known as a Wonder Girl, did law enforcement jump to the conclusion that she was a wandering and confused older person and drop the ball? Um, I would have to say no on this one because they see that the blood at the front door
Yeah.
is pretty stark in regards to that. I mean, I think they knew right away. And then, of course, like the sheriff said, he didn't say it in the initial stage. He refused to say that there was a sign of a struggle. He wasn't going to say. He goes, "There's a sign of it," and he wouldn't say struggle. But something else happened in that house. They knew right away that something had terribly gone wrong. Welcome, Kimmy, for joining. Thank you very much. Let's see
It's
what
like you
other
said,
question.
Joe, right? And I think that's a good rule, right? When we have a missing person case, we should just treat it like a homicide so that you can gather all the evidence right off the bat. Don't waste any time. Why not, right? And you're the first person I thought of when I heard this was a missing and then it went to an abduction right away and they're processing it like a homicide. They had the homicide detectives. I said, exactly. That's exactly what you should do.
Exactly. And I do say that quite often. I say it all the time, right? Bring the detectives right away because more than likely this turns into a homicide investigation anyway. And now you have these really trained men and women already working on some of the different things that you have going. Let's say I'm going through some of the questions
I
here.
like I like Becky's Chat GPT caricature. I did one. I posted one today on my Instagram.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do one. Flora Parisi, thank you very much for the supers. This is my Super Bowl. So glad to see the Sarge back and healthy. Might give him one episode before busting on him for pronunciations. Yeah, there is no Flora. There is no quarter for over here.
This is police are the worst. We are the worst. We don't care if you're missing a lung. We're gonna make fun of you. I have a story. Can I give a quick story?
Sure.
I don't know if I did this before. Story time for the new people. Joe has like 20,000. When I was on, I don't know how long ago. There was like about what 13,000. Now it's 20,000. I
Mhm.
used to do story time with Joe, not to take up too much time, but there was like an accident involving. I think I might have told this before, but there was an accident involving a police car and a civilian car. And make a long story short, the cops ended up, wrecked up against the sidewalk and talking about injuries. The guy said that, Micah hit my head. He might have been bleeding. He goes, how do I look? How do I look? And what do I say, Joe? I said, you look the same. You're still ugly. This is what cops do. This is what cops do. I mean, I took care of him. I got him on the ambulance. I put him on the bus. We call it an ambulance. The bus. Put him on the bus. Got him.
Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah.
Medical
Oh
help.
yeah. We're relentless. So we got Nicole from. This is from Mother Knows Death. I had them on the show not too long ago. Was that the only blood they found at the scene? Did they say they did not say if they found any other blood other than the ones on the front stoop area? Did it, but
Yeah.
but they did say that there was a sign of a struggle inside of the home.
Yeah.
So
I mean, did we only find out about the blood because Brian was over there filming it? Is that the only way you found out? Did they release that prior?
no, I think the only reason why we found that out is because
Right.
Brian Enton walked on the property after they left.
Yeah. So
I
this,
hope
I'm
they knew
sure.
about it.
Huh?
I hope they knew about it
Oh my goodness. I
because.
hope so.
But think about this, Mike. According to what they were saying when we read in the timeline, they go in through the garage, right? The mother. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Nancy
Nancy
goes
goes
into the
into the
garage.
garage.
Do the
Yeah.
police follow her path that way and not do anything at the front door? I hope not.
Oh my God. I hope they didn't do that.
Question says, you said it was a good system, so homicides are no longer ran the way of catching the case and being in charge. No, what we're talking about, Regina, here is when you have a missing persons case like this, having a detective at the very beginning of a missing persons case, because so often these things turn into homicide cases, having them from the get-go is a great way to try to solve the case faster because these are your most experienced investigators and it goes and it helps like that. I hope that kind of answer you. That is what we
Oh,
were talking about before, right, Mike?
I think she's talking about. Remember how I told you that I'm the catching detective? It's my
Oh, okay.
homicide. Then everyone else is assisting. Uh, no, I believe that's still the way it goes, Regina. In the NYPD, anyway. You got the homicide because you got the basket. Remember the old school wire basket? The sergeant or the lieutenant puts that on your desk. You caught that homicide because every DD5, which is a complaint follow-up that detectives do, is going to land in that basket. And that's your job to sift through that, put it together. Well, actually, they don't do that now, right? Because everything's electronic, Joe.
Electronic.
I am such a dinosaur. But
We're
yeah,
all.
back in the day, you get a basket and you get the DD5s in there. Now it's all electronic.
Siobhan has a great question from Twitter. She writes, didn't they need a warrant to search the backyard? And this is the home of Nancy Guthrie. And I had, you want me to handle this one, Mike?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Siobhan, great question. But the answer to that question is no, because Nancy Guthrie lived alone. Nobody else had reasonable expectation of privacy to be at the location. So there is no reason to get a search warrant. And according to what the law says, basically, if the victim was alive to be able to tell you to do this to help them solve their case, they would allow you to do it. So it's kind of understood that you can do it. But for instance, going to Annie's house where they were doing the searches for, you would need a warrant unless you get consent, Mike. But at this
Yeah.
point, I'm not a big fan of getting consent in a case like this because this thing is like something's fishy. I would have just gotten the warrant. What about you? What do you say about that? Because they
Yeah, I
went
think
back
it's
last night.
good. Listen, they already messed up the crime scene. I would like to make it solid in case, right? In case you recover evidence, I want to know that I got a search warrant ready to go. I was allowed in there before some lawyer tries to destroy your case, saying that it was coerced, that you should have got in there. Fruits of a poisonous tree. So I'm with you, Joe. Search warrant and bang it out.
Right. Get the warrant. When you ask for consent in these kind of cases, folks, things could get stupid in a minute because they could turn around and say, "Yeah, I was coerced into it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't not voluntarily, intelligently, and knowingly do it." Because you know what, the defense is going to play all kinds of games in
For
regards
sure.
to your thing. Uh, Question. I'll let you answer this one, Mike. Saran, is it Saran? So Sarah on the stairs. Sarah on the stairs. Do you think this cold? Do you think this case ends up cold?
Gosh, I hope not. Gosh, I hope not. There's so much evidence. Again, we don't know what they have, folks. We don't know what they collected, right? There's got to be so much evidence in that house. There's got to be blood, fingerprints, anything they touched, clothing fiber, hair, if there was a struggle. There's so much they got to process. I don't think we like to Monday morning quarterback them, and they do seem like they're a little bit inept, but they're probably steadily processing this crime scene, making sure it's right, because everything is for, courtroom presentation, right? They don't want to rush. They want to make it solid, and then they're going to make their arrest, make their apprehension. They don't want to make mistakes, especially now that the FBI is involved. I hope it doesn't go cold. I hope Nancy comes home. Hope she's returned home. I'd like to think that she's safe. I hope so. but the message that they gave out yesterday was very telling. So it's not looking very good.
No, and I'm just going to add one other thing to that is the electronic evidence, right? If this kidnapping thing is legit, 6 days ago they gave out this Bitcoin wallet that TMZ themselves, right? So TMZ, which is not a law enforcement agency, as we know, folks, was able to verify that this was a real Bitcoin wallet. So if they can do it, right? So what do you think the FBI is doing with this? And they've had now a 6 day lead on this. So between the communications that were sent, whether sent, I believe, via email, we had it once to the local news station, to TMZ. Whoever did this knew exactly what was going to happen when they sent it to TMZ. Right? You have a Today Show host family member kidnapped. They send it to TMZ and the local station, and they knew exactly what was going to happen. That this was going to be in national news, which kind of like to me is counterintuitive. If you're trying to do something, get money, do you really want the president of the United States weighing in on your case? Because that's what happened the other night.
Oh yeah, I have a theory about that.
Okay,
I have a
good.
theory
Shoot.
that maybe the bad guys, the abductors, were trying to contact law enforcement, right, PIMA, but maybe they weren't getting the response, right, or maybe they weren't believing it was them. So maybe they say, you know what, we'll send it to TMZ, we'll send it to the other local news media to push this, and it worked, right? It worked. So what do you think of that? Do you think that's a viable theory?
It could
Can you
be
imagine how
because
much information the police are getting? And it's probably not moving fast enough for these bad guys. This poor lady's condition is getting worse. They probably overcommitted. They bit off more than they can chew, and now they can't even get contact with the family. Right?
yeah. Well, imagine calling back in our day, Mike. Let's go like New York City, 1992. You calling the TS hotline, telling you I have kidnapped somebody, and you call. What do you think the cop's gonna do? Yeah, okay. Click. you
TS is
know,
the telephone switchboard operator. It's usually a police officer, maybe a civilian answering the phone, not 911. It's the police officer or civilian in the precinct that's getting calls to the precinct direct.
yeah, they'd be like, yeah, okay, guy, and hanging up the phone and going next caller. So here's a question from Thought Criminal
If
77.
they even pick up the phone.
That's what they say. Could preparing or waiting for the warrants be the reason law enforcement has returned numerous times? No, because if you are going to go for a search warrant, you have to leave somebody behind so that nobody goes in and gets rid of evidence. And this is why I said they should have kept the scene, thrown everybody out, tell everybody to go to a hotel, and that's it.
And this is a high profile case. I've drawn search warrants. I've drawn search warrants that's not high profile, and the judge will expedite that so you can get right to the scene. So I'm sure there wasn't like a backlog or red tape or slowing them down. I'm sure they were right on the money with that, and they were there to execute that when they asked for it.
And Kay has a great question. Says, does this case have any similarities to kidnappings you see in Mexico or South America? Uh, we do know that in South America and Mexico, there's a lot more ransom cases than we see here in the United States. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any international outside influence in this. I don't think, because a lot of people kind of put this two and two together that the president of the United States is being told about this case. Could there be a cartel issue and stuff like that going on? But once again, I think, well, the cartel would have been much more brutal if they were looking for a revenge or something else other than that than kidnapping an 84-year-old woman. But I could be wrong, but I don't think that's the case here.
I think it's definitely more prevalent, like in Mexico, right? It's like my greatest fear when my daughter goes to, Cancun, stay with your friends, because there's, kidnappings happen there all the time. So, I mean, it's a good question.
Yeah,
And it is close, right? It's fairly close. So
it's pretty
possible.
close.
I'm sure the FBI entertained that or is entertaining that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, trying to track the communications. We just topped 1,400 live viewers in the show. So those of you that just came in, welcome to True Crime with the Sarge. I'm the host, Joe Jackalone, and with us today is my friend Mike Alcazar, retired NYPD detective, and we're diving into some of the questions that you guys have in regards to this case. We're trying to answer as many as we can tonight as we dodge watching the Super Bowl. Um, So the
Oh,
question here is it true that you must use luminol at night? It helps. It helps. I've seen luminol used once. We had to darken all the rooms, this and that, but they will sometimes wait to come at night. But here's the other thing about luminol that you don't know about on television. Luminol doesn't last very long once you light it up. So they spray it, they they put the luminescent light on, and you have to take your pictures right away because it disappears within the matter of seconds. So everything's got to be ready. And I know they were talking about this in the garage last night. You saw the flashes, the old school photography things, and people were trying to put two and two together if they were using luminol in there. And if you put me on a spot, Mike, and ask me were they using luminol in the garage last night, I would have to say yes.
yeah. KLB goes, we're just here for Mike's insults. I haven't insulted anybody yet. Yet. Somebody had a good question. It was going fast, but they were asking about could it be because of like what Savannah has covered in the past, right? Something she reported on. I've seen that.
Yeah,
And
well,
now my
they
answer
brought up
to that is that would go to the victimology, right? When we're looking
yeah,
at the victim's past, including her family members, any threats, any disputes, I'm sure the FBI is looking at anybody that sent hate towards Havana, any kind of complaints, any kind of like bad messages. I'm sure they're looking at that for sure.
yes, I agree. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, I did see that she had covered some Epstein victims. I know a lot of people brought that up recently. She did a show on that, but I, if you're trying to retaliate against somebody or preventing them from doing something, I don't know if the ransom is the way to go. I don't know. The ransom gets your message across. To be honest with you.
I mean, unless they just want to hurt her, right? They just want to hurt Savannah, you know, send a message. Definitely something to entertain for sure.
Yeah, and Lulu, there's a lot of people says anyone couldn't sleep last night due to this case. And listen, this think about. I mean, for those of us who are still lucky that you have your mom. Could you imagine your mom, 84 years old, all these medical conditions, and then having to go through this? Like you go through your whole life to, and this is how it could possibly end. It's it's um it's absolutely awful when you think about it in that respect.
Shannon says my block button is getting a workout. Thank you for our mods.
Uh oh.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, and hello, Nightbot, my old friend.
There you go. Is this the question, Mike, from Thought Criminal Against is considering Savannah's media career and her husband's political career? Will law enforcement be explaining those angles? Was that the question you were looking at? Because
It
if not,
wasn't, but that's the same.
it's the
Yeah,
same thing. Let's see. Marie Peacock, glad to see you guys back and getting better. Thank you. Here's one that says, this is from Disney Nerd. Could the reason for them doing multiple searches be partially due to getting search warrants to make them the cover there, what in case it does end up in court? Yeah, well, that could be the possibility, but Disney Nerd not securing that scene while you're waiting to get the search warrant is a terrible policy, right, Mike?
100%. If you're going to execute a search warrant in a location, you as law enforcement can secure that scene, making sure that no one goes in, no one goes out. So to clarify that. In fact, one time, me and my partner John Hanley, God rest his soul, we drove up on Lincoln Place in the 77. And as we're driving, we're just doing routine patrol. This guy comes out of his house with a shotgun in Brooklyn and just starts shooting the gun. Boom, boom, boom. And then he runs into the house, right? So what do we do? Could have been an emergency exception. He got in. I could have kicked down the door, but probably not a good idea because there's a guy behind there with a shotgun. So I called for backup. We surrounded the house. My lieutenant says, we're going to secure the house. You go draw up a search warrant. And we did. I got the search warrant. We come back. Now we come back with emergency services, which is like a SWAT team. They boom the door. And I identified the bad guy that I saw. We arrested him. And we searched the house for the shotgun. And guess who found it? This guy. How appropriate.
There you go. But that's the way it goes, right? Yes. You could have jumped, run right after him and get him in there because you see it. But prudently, wait. Heroes of sandwiches. I used to tell the guys that work for me. Heroes of sandwiches. Don't do anything that was like. But Mike, let's just take a look at this from a grand scheme of things. If this case turns out to be a legitimate kidnapping and ransom, it's going to rewrite textbooks and procedure on how police and FBI respond to these things going forward? Yes or no?
100%, 100%. Probably, like large agencies like the NYPD, LAPD, they probably have those protocols in place. But small agencies like this, they really have to rely on bigger departments to assist, especially in a case like this where time is ticking, right?
Yes, I mean, but when you think about this, not only is it ransom, but it's about Bitcoin. It's about all this crazy stuff. And I don't know if did I say this already, whatever. When I did some research before the show tonight, I know people say, "Oh, Bitcoin, it's anonymous and this and that." It's not as anonymous as people think, right? We've been told, it's like the old saying: if you're told something long enough, you think it's true. But folks, if you are going to get the idea behind using Bitcoin in this situation, from my research that I found, is just that it doesn't have to go through bank regulations. It could just go in and zoom, could go right through whatever wallet that it has, and then it starts going everywhere else. But it leaves a trail wherever it goes, and it still has to go through the Bitcoin exchange. So there's still, the deal is the thing that for bad guys to use Bitcoin, the nice thing for them is that they uh, don't have to go through bank regulations to get large sums of money put through. But think about this, though. Bitcoin is worth $6 million today. It could be worth zero tomorrow. When you think about it, right? It's not real currency. It's just I don't have any direct investment in Bitcoin because I don't understand it. But think about
You and
this.
me both.
But think about this, right? You're asking for something that could be valueless tomorrow. I mean, it probably won't, but you get my drift, right? If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna put my the rest of my freedom of my life on the line. It isn't gonna be for something that could be devalued in the matter of days because Bitcoin has been dropping like a rock. I looked at this; it went from 100,000 to $77,000 over the last couple of weeks. So it lost like a third of its value in a short
Yeah,
period of time. So why would you risk your freedom and everything like that on an asset that could disappear tomorrow?
yeah.
Right? Maybe a little something else inside it. If there's a Bitcoin bro in the room and they can explain this to us, just throw a comment in there about why they think it's a good idea to do this. Question, Mike, that do you think the coverage has been fair in regards to other missing persons cases, but because that she's a celebrity, meaning Savannah, that this case got special attention? Good question.
I mean, yeah, it's a high profile case because she's the mother of Savannah Guthrie. So is it unfair? Yes, of course it's unfair because there's a lot of missing people, abducted people throughout this nation not getting this attention, not getting the assistance of the FBI. So yeah, I could totally see that.
And I'm going to throw just a little bit of a wrinkle in there. I agree with you, Mike. But the other thing is that this now also has a ransom angle to it, too. So this is just not so much a missing persons, quote unquote. This is a special category missing person, right? Because she's got medical conditions and stuff like that, coupled with the blood and everything like that. They're treating this, and they should be treating this as a homicide investigation. And now you add the ransom on top of that. It kind of ups the ante to the fact. But yes, having the celebrity status gets it to the front page of the newspaper, and then to the president of. I never thought I'd ever see the president of the United States weigh in on a local um, kidnapping and ransom case. I never thought that in a million years, Mike.
I mean, just goes to show how high profile this case is. It's everywhere. Everyone knows about this. Everyone's interested in. It's bigger. I think it's bigger than the Gabby Petito case, and that was huge.
Right. And well, that brings up a good point. But I just want to take a quick shout out to Lee. Thank you very much for that super sticker. I really appreciate that. I know it took me a while to get to it, but there's just so many great questions and things they're going through. So this is a huge case, Mike. What do you think about the sheriff going to the basketball game, the college basketball game last night? He's getting
Listen,
he's
I'm,
getting he's getting beat up on social media about it. But what's your take? And I'll tell you my take. I'm not going to hang you out to dry, but
I mean, I guess listen, you're entitled to have your days off, but if in such a high profile case and you're front and center on that podium, I mean, it's been, several days. Maybe hold off on seeing that basketball game. Um, you know you're going to be in the media, and then you know you're going to get scrutiny for that, and you're going to get some crap for that. So this one, and plus, that last message just came out. She potentially could be dead. Probably not good timing on his part.
Yes, when I'm going to go, I'm not going to repeat what you said because everything you said I was going to say. The optics are terrible. Some people who are defending and say, hey, listen, the guy needs a break. He needs this and that. Now's not the time or place. Sit home and watch the game from home. You wouldn't have seen me anywhere. If I wasn't in the office working, I would be in my house. I wouldn't even be outside where someone could take a picture of me saying, look, he's even relaxing at home. Just to stay out of the public eye. This is like I said, you have the president of the United States talking about this case. The last place you want to be is out of the public at a game doing something. It's just, to me, it's just a bad look, and he should have used better discretion. How about that? Is that a good term? Should have used better discretion.
Yes, sir.
But then again, you say to yourself, could he be? Because here's a flip side of that. Could he be so relaxed because there's news coming down that he's kind of like confident, saying, I don't need to be quarterbacking this thing because this thing's going to be wrapped up soon. You ever think of it that way?
Even then.
Yeah. Stay out of the limelight. So, so LS Digital kind of asked the question we discussed before: is it a strategy of the FBI and law enforcement say no leads, no suspects, and even though they might have those, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, we'll even use misdirection if we can. A lot of times, because there's a polygraph question coming up here. Jesse had asked about, is it Tommaso about he refused to take a polygraph and this and that. Even when people do take polygraphs, first of all, they're not admissible in court.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing is this: even if they fail, we don't tell you, like, listen, you failed. We don't tell you. And in public, we're going to say he took the polygraph test. He's been ruled out. Folks, that means absolutely zero, because we don't want individuals, while we're building a case against them, to go and destroy evidence or go on the run, because there is nothing that aggravates a detective more than to have to now go on a nationwide manhunt for somebody that they could have gotten down the block. Yes or no, Mike?
Totally concur. And that's, somebody was asking, and that's part of the reason the FBI, we don't release a lot of the information, a lot of the evidence that we have. So we don't want to give anybody a heads up, right? We want to make the apprehension quiet as possible. We want them to think that we don't know what we're doing, and we get the jump on them.
LS, thank you for gifting those 5 memberships. I appreciate that.
Did I get one?
Here's a question from Telly's mom. Why use Instagram to post the pleas from family and not the station that received the ransom request? Good question. I just think it's the way things go now. Families and people feel comfortable going on their social media platforms, especially somebody like Savannah, who has a huge following, to get the message out there. It gets magnified. So I don't see that as a listen. We're living in a new media world, and the old media world doesn't kind of stack up for a lot of people. What do you think, Mike?
It's a wider audience, right? You put it on Instagram, everybody sees it. Everyone's got Instagram. I said that before, like with the Gabby Petito case. Instagram is like the milk box with a picture of the missing person, except wider reach. So invaluable.
That's actually a great analogy. I like that. It's like the old milk box,
You may
milk
use
carton.
that, sir. You may use that.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that one. Carrots and other vegetables. I think I'm going to have to get very comfortable with eating carrots and other vegetables real soon in my life.
Good.
What do you think is the most recent video, Savannah, Annie, and Cameron speaking to the captors? Thank you, Mike. I know you did this on Fox News. You talked about this, so I'm gonna hand this one off to you. What do you think about yesterday's video?
I think it was still prepared somewhat. I'm sure there was a little bit help because, as you can imagine, if they found out information, it's got to be super emotional. And Savannah had to, probably take this, make this video a few times, right? So she can compose herself. There was a lot of information there. You notice she said she understands. To me, the captors revealed some information to them, or made demands, and she wants to acknowledge that she understands, right? Um, she also said that they want to celebrate with her, right? People have taken this a few different ways. Um, it could be to celebrate because she's brought home, or it could be, a celebration of life, however you want to interpret it. She did say that it's important to them that, this is something that will give them peace, right? And I related this to religion, right? I think a lot of people believe a lot in religion, and if this poor woman did pass, that they want, they want to have hopeful a service for her when they get her back. So I think they're trying to appeal again to the humanity of these animals that abducted her. Um, I did say this before, that if you notice in the first Instagram video that, there was, towards the end, they addressed the captors, and then towards the end, each child said something to their mom, right? Something personal to their mom. They're talking to their mom. But in this last video, they didn't say anything to Nancy. So to me, that indicates that something very bad has happened, and they're trying to deal with it with the best they can. They look very, I'm sure they're very tired. They probably feel like defeated, that they've lost all control, and that these abductors, have everything, and they're
Yeah,
just
they've been
trying
tortured.
to, they're just trying to appease them. And she said that they're willing to pay. She's never said that before. In the first few videos, they said they want to have the talk, a communication. Here, they just said, we'll pay, right? So I
Right.
think they feel a little bit lost. And that statement was powerful, very powerful. She wasn't reading it off paper, right? I think it's, for the most part, from the heart. So very, very, very powerful, very, very sad statement.
And the thing that was also missing from the second statement that was in the first statement is that there was no demand of proof of life,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Which to me indicates that because she's saying she understands, they just want her back. They might have gotten something, right? That proves that the captors have Nancy, right? Whether it's an image or whatever they sent this poor family. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I can imagine having to be in that position. But the first message got a little screwy, right, with this whole Silence of the Lambs things too. Um, Mike, does any of this actually go out without some sort of law enforcement approval? Like, I mean, we just don't let family members talk, on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say that this is probably right out of a playbook of the FBI. Silence of the Lambs is an old movie. We have young FBI agents out there that are like in their 20s and 30s. Maybe they had never even heard of the movie. Maybe they just relied on the whatever approved script that they've used in the FBI, perhaps in training. And I think that's what happened. I mean, if an FBI approved that, I'm sure they just got their assignment transferred because it's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
it's
And it potentially could have cost Nancy her life, right? If they sent this message out, and it's and you see the comparison right out of the movie, these
word
abductors
for
could have
word,
gotten insulted, right?
word for word. I mean, I would
Yeah.
have never picked it up in a million years. But there is a lot of people out there that are really sharp, and this is why I always say, not for get into another topic, but for cold cases, we really need to start opening them up to the general public because there are a lot of sharp people out there,
Hmm.
and can see things and find things that law enforcement doesn't have the time or can't do.
Yeah, you could tell just by looking at the chat. Great questions. People take this seriously. They're really invested. I think I gave a shout out to our true crime community twice because
Yes,
it's an invaluable tool, and it's just the way of the future. Departments will just have to have units that will have to deal with tips from our community, right? They're going to have to vet it. That's just going to be a specialization that they'll have to create for, especially for a large department, because there's so much information out there. We just got to go through it.
Exactly. And we topped over 1,500. This is a new record for me here at True Crime with the Sarge.
Hi,
So I want to
Pokemon.
thank everybody for showing up here. For the last couple of minutes we got here, Mike, Beach Bree has a question. Says, why did everyone on Main Street media avoid saying it sounded like she may have passed away? I don't think anybody wants to dampen any expectations for the family. And I don't think, if you're on CNN or you're on Fox News or whatever, and you say, listen, she's passed away, this getting back to the family is extremely high. So I think people are just, I think a lot of people think that, and they held back, and rightly so. Because even you did, Mike. I saw you dance around the issue the other day when you were on Fox News, in regards to that, because you don't want to come out and say this on national TV, because it's like I said, think how your family would feel about that and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope the family's not watching the news, because there's so much information. I would hope that Savannah is not reading the comments on her Instagram post, because some people are just heartless with their comments. So, it's like almost like a death notification, right? We've made, hundreds of death notifications in our career, and you have to do it, caringly, in steps, gradually, right, to prepare them for it. And unfortunately, the news and some people just go right out there and say it, and nobody wants to hear that.
No. And speaking of, people say, when people always ask you, oh, when you're a cop, like what is something that you remember, or what do you call it? I could tell you something right now. The scream of a mother when you tell them that their child has been killed. There is nothing that can prepare you for that. Sorry, it's just there's nothing that can prepare you for that. And I sometimes some of those screams come back in my head in the middle of the night. When you get, because they're blood curdling.
Yeah.
So, Mike, as we're closing in on the deadline tomorrow, do you anticipate any major movements coming up between? Because we have, it's what, 5 p.m. tomorrow Mountain Time. Any major chess moves? Do you think law enforcement can, if there's anything that they can make?
I don't know. They seem to amped up like the search, right? I don't know if they got more information. Why are they going to these different locations? Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna probably make an announcement tomorrow, or
I
maybe
think
we're
so.
gonna get another message from the abductors. Who knows?
I hate to see this go down to the wire, so to speak. And I know it's the Super Bowl, but that's not a reference on purpose. But I hate to see this go down to the wire, meaning that we don't have any answers until 5 p.m. tomorrow, and then we pass that deadline, because the family is going to be, the family knows what's going to happen, right? Because this is what the threat has been in regards to that. So, Al Becky says, thanks for the live. Beats the Puppy Bowl for those of us who are not interested in the Super Bowl. Yes. And that was the reason why I was, contemplating doing it. I honestly didn't know if anybody was going to show up tonight because of the Super Bowl in that regard. So this was a new record for me, Mike. So I am very happy that everybody had a decent time here. We answered we answered a ton of questions. But Mike, any final words on the Guthrie case? Anything that you want to see happen tonight?
It's just tragic. I hope Nancy is returned to her family. I hope we make an apprehension and make them pay for it. No family should go through this. It's just horrible. I can't even imagine how helpless they feel. I don't wish this on my worst enemies, and I have a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's well put. And the only thing I'm going to add on to that is, if you're still lucky enough to have your mom, give her a call tonight and just say hi. That's how I'm going to leave that. So everybody, thank you for showing up tonight and enjoying this with us tonight. And I hope you had some education part of it. I'm not going to say fun, but a little education part of it. And this is what we try to do here. True Crime with the Sarge, my channel here. We try to have the not only the best informed, but the smartest group of people out there on the internet, and it shows every day. We just look at these questions. We had some fantastic questions, and I'm sorry if I couldn't get to all of them, but maybe we'll do a follow up show if we have some other breaking news or something tomorrow. Mike, I want to thank you for your time tonight.
Thank
Everybody
you,
else,
sir.
Mike, you hang out 1 second. Everybody else,
Bye, everybody.
if you gotta watch the rest of the game, have fun. If not,
Becky,
we'll
give
see you
Mama P
soon.
a hug from us.
There you go.
Anita, I love you too.
Good night, guys. Thank you very much.